All right, so good morning from Salt Lake City, Utah, the Mormon capital of the world. I've had a bit of a time getting here and kind of mentally orienting myself. Um, well, first of all, I did want to touch base on a couple things that I'd forgotten to mention back in Amarillo and in Denver, because again, I do try to make my videos a clean 10 minutes and for the most part, I usually take notes on the trip just so I have a little bit more to chew on when I do make these videos. Because I think a couple videos during training I forgot to take notes and my videos were kind of all over the place and seemed pointless. So one thing I did want to touch on first of all, the good deeds indeed video. Besides helping out that girl all day, I did have one more climactic good deed for that day, which is when I was in Amarillo and I was watching the Denver Charger game, and I ended up finding someone's binder, like one of the metal, you know, folding binders filled with all sorts of stuff, bills of lading, old scale tickets, receipts, all this stuff, and I didn't really know what to do at first. I was like, maybe I should turn it into lost and found, but then I said, hey, why not just try to see if this truck's still here? And it was freaking freezing, probably in the 20s, and I said, screw it. So, first of all, again, it was metal, so the cold, frigid air didn't help in any way. But I got out there and I kind of did a loop, and I wrote down the truck number and the trailer number, and here I am thinking, this guy could have already bailed, could have already been on his way to wherever he was going, and I barely did like a third of the lot, and once I was looping back around towards the Flying J, I said, screw it, I'm just going to turn it in. And right when I passed that corner, I see this truck 3505, and I was like, wait, 3505, Western Flyer, and there it was. He was still there. So I'd actually already made a note with some receipt paper at the Flying J saying, found this in the driver lounge. Watch your shit next time, Mitch. So I left it on his window. So I hope he got it in the morning, or I'm sure he did, and I hope he appreciated it for the fact that I actually took a loop around in the cold just to find that truck, and it's something I would have wanted someone to do for me. I mean, in my binder, I have one of my cards with all my contact info, so hopefully it wouldn't be a problem. But I mean, think about being 50 miles, 200 miles down the road, and realizing you forgot your binder, your bills of lading. You're going to get a service failure for sure, I would think. So that was my climactic good deed of that day. So I just wanted to mention that. Another thing I wanted to mention was at that same truck stop when I first showed up. It was late at night. It was pretty full. I ended up having to kind of corkscrew into one of the last spots in the corner, and with the angle and the other trucks, I actually had to park up the trailer on some of the dirt, which was all good and fine. But one thing that kind of irritated me is I see this truck straight up taking up two spots, just sidewindered into these two spots. And I see this, and here I am, squeezing my way into this last corner spot. And so I kind of thought to myself, should I do it? Should I do it? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I knocked on his window about 2 in the morning. I woke him up. It was this Russian guy. And first thing I say to him, I was like, is it your birthday? And he kind of didn't know what I was talking about. And he gets out. I was like, why are you taking up 2 parking spots, man? And he kind of looks, he gets out. He's like, well, that guy over there, he got the last spot and all this stuff. And I guess the guy next to him had took the last spot that was marked with paint. But he thought, hey, I'll just swoop in next to this guy. 2 more trucks had actually parked, because when truck stops get full and congested, you take whatever you can get. So this guy kind of didn't even realize, any point at any time, you should never park your truck at an angle. Be a little more considerate. But by the end of it, he was cool, and he ended up moving. And by the time I came back out to my truck, someone had taken that spot that he had accommodated for. So I was glad I did it. I wasn't going to leave a note, in the morning. That would have been an after statement. But so I got that out of the way. And so it was a pretty interesting day. I finally get up to Denver. I'm driving at night at this point because the way I had to spend the day in Amarillo, now I've been driving at night the past few days, which is not necessarily my favorite thing to do. I usually enjoy the scenery and just the light to kind of keep you aware. But I get to this shipper, I get to this customer, I'm already low on hours on my 14. And I get there, the guy says, yeah, man, it's going to be 2 to 3 hours. You see those 4 other trucks up there? They've been waiting here at least 2 hours each. And I only had, this was part of a 2-stop trip. One was in Englewood, like I said, Englewood, Colorado, and now Denver. And so when I get there, I only have about a fifth of a trailer. I think about 11 pieces or something like that, refrigerators, LG stuff. And And the guy miraculously let me cut in line. He's like, all right, dude, just dock it into door 6. I don't know what door it was, but so luckily I was able to get it. I did not do the best job of getting it in there. I finally get it in there. They tell me, dude, you're gonna have to realign it better. I was kind of just in a, you know, in a motion to just get this over with. And when you rush yourself, it's not worth it. So definitely slow down. But I finally got it all good and docked. They unload it, and I see these other drivers scouring at me, and one guy even got out. I saw him went in and probably asked like, hey man, that guy just showed up. Why is he cutting in line? Either way, I got to cut in line, and I got out of there, and I was able to drive down to the TA 3 miles away. I had about 20 minutes left, so I got there and did my post trip, and I was good to go. So anyway, so once we got all that good and done, I get dispatched to do a Miller Coors trip to Salt Lake City, which I mentioned. First of all, I get to the terminal in Denver, and it is freaking so congested. I've never seen a terminal more compacted with trailers. I had about an inch clearance right by this one trailer just to do a loop through the terminal, and it's a horrible lot. Denver is a horrible lot, a horrible terminal in my opinion. So I finally find a spot. Besides all the rows, there's 2 trailers here. There's one here. So I pretty much figured, hey, I'll just park that one next to the one in front of the other 2. And so I back it in. I get it good to go, and then I pretty much have to pick up. I call to get approval on the trailer behind it, which because I'm looking for an empty at this point. So I get approval on that trailer. I pretty much have to back in at an angle to get this thing hooked up and finally pull it out and around it and get the hell out of freaking the Denver terminal. So I'm finally on my way to Miller Coors in Denver. I get there. First thing you're supposed to do is check in. I go into the wrong place. I'm supposed to drive down and talk to the security. I thought there was this initial office. So, and then I see the sign, you got to slide your tandems, which I've said before. I usually slide the tandems once I get to the spot. I'm almost parked, but this one said before you enter, you must slide your tandems. So here I am trying to get mine done. Turns out one of them was stuck, and that's usually a factor of, you just got to back the truck up and give it a little wiggle room for the trailer. My teammate used to get a hammer and bang it, which is what I ended up having to do, but it's usually not stuck. It's usually you just got to, readjust the trailer alignment with the tandems. So after 10 minutes, I finally get that done. I finally get checked in. The load's about 45,000 pounds, so I'm hauling almost 80,000 pounds through Colorado into Wyoming. It's nighttime, grades, I'm creeping. That's just pretty horrible about heavy loads, man, especially with graded territory. You go a lot slower than you would even think. And so I thought I would make it with the 500 miles or so with my hours. I ended up getting to around Rawlins, Wyoming, which is where Iman and I, my former teammate, had some truck issues. So anyway, I'm in that area. I see a parking area next to a Love's, and I'm tired at this point because I didn't sleep too well the night before because I was worried about this load going to Salt Lake City. Am I going to get screwed on it? And so I ended up pulling over, taking a full 10. And I kind of felt bad because maybe this is going to screw me over. It turns out I wouldn't have even made it to Salt Lake with my hours because of all the grades and all that stuff. So I'm glad I took a break when I needed it. I finally get to Salt Lake City. Again, I'm driving through the night again, which is, in my opinion, it's the 3rd day in a row. It's kind of grinding on me. What is kind of cool, though, I saw probably almost 3 dozen shooting stars through Colorado and Wyoming, which is pretty freaking awesome. So I finally get to Salt Lake City Terminal. I'm at the window, at the dispatch window in the driver lounge. They have a slider window. Usually, they will open the slider window. It's kind of rude to just open the window. Usually, that's the typical case. So I'm standing at this window. There's a girl sitting there, this blonde chick. She's got her headphones in. She's kind of reading through a book. And I'm standing there 3 minutes, just standing there idle. And finally, this guy comes in behind me and cracks the window and grabs a T-call sheet. And so while it's open, I kind of say, "Excuse me, are you the only one here?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, don't you see me standing here?" She's like, "Well, you can open the window if you need help." I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to." And she's like, "Well, that's your problem." And I'm sitting here like, dude, after driving 3 days through the night, I'm not in the best mood. And here's this girl at my home terminal who's supposed to be on my freaking team, giving me this freaking attitude. And I was kind of pissed. So I didn't even T-call it yet because I didn't have it approved. I didn't even have an approval on the T-call at all. I finally get it approved. They give me a local swap, which I'm at now. I'm getting unloaded a little bit. The camera might be shaking a little bit. And then I'm going up to 60 miles north into Utah, and then I'm cutting into Auburn. And I actually got to pick where I wanted to go. I have not been to Washington yet in a truck. I used to live in Seattle. It's about a little over 800 miles total, so I'm pretty stoked, and that's where I'm at.